Hey everybody. I got a tutorial request on making letters out of fluid with X particles. So I tried to come up with the best way to do it. There's probably other ways, but this way seems to work pretty well. We're going to use a spline flow modifier as well as some flow fields and some questions and answers to get the particle life how we want. And then we're going to render in Arnold. So if you want to stick around, I will try not to disappoint. Okay, so this is what we're going to be making here. You can use your own letters, whatever you'd like to use. We have the fluid just flowing around these letters pretty nicely, splashing off. Okay, so let's hop in. So I'm gonna, as quick as I can, try to show the best way to do this. So let's go to our front view and let's paste in or navigate to an image that you'd like. I'm going to use this here. And then let's quickly get our pen and trace around our letters and hit escape twice. We want new splines per letter, and we want new segments or new splines for each of the kind of these segments on these letters. So we'll just do it nice and quick here. Okay. And then there's going to be some problem areas of these if they're too tight. So ideally use text that's kind of more bubbly like this. If possible. This top of here is, let's do soft interpolation T. Grab one of the handles and pinch it in a little bit. Or E can go back a little bit. And I don't want these to be, like I didn't want to just copy and paste the previous E. I want it to be a little different. Something like this will be good for now. All right. So first I'm just going to start off on the R, and then it's basically the same process for everything else. So let's make an emitter. And let's make it a sphere around 2 and align to spline. Okay, now we want, okay, so we have to do a couple things. No, we're not going to want all of our particles to spit out at their end emission rate right off the bat. I want them to ramp in. And I am going to want this to be in a group. We're going to use groups for each of these letters. And let's change it to circles. No radius for the moment. And speed, let's just do 25 to 15 variation. And then let's add a scale modifier so that we can scale these up over time. Our upper radius limit should be about 0.6 and maybe 0.1 radius change. And then this should be fluid, so fluid effects. Leave it on fast for the moment. And then let's add in a spline flow. Have it affect particle group 1. And the spline that we want to reference is this R. Now let's go into all of our handles. And the distance is how far away will it pull particles in. So let's lower this down. And this will give us fine-tuning control over our particles. And I will adjust all these values in a second, but I'm also going to add in a flow field. And I'm going to size it up to our R. And probably you're going to do this for all of your letters individually. Okay, and this one is going to be called along. And it's going to affect particle group 1. And it's going to be along a spline. And the spline is going to be the R. I'm going to increase it to 100%. Now, without doing anything else to our individual handles, now we have something like this, which is a lot more uniform. We're going to have this problem area right here. So let's increase that handle. So the along parameter affects the speed at which the particles are flowing along the spline. And then the toward will, or actually then we can change up the attraction and it'll help pull them in. Just starting to inch them in closer. And that can be fine because maybe in the end we will increase this attraction and get them going up a little bit. So I don't have to follow exactly that hard arc. They can kind of swing around there. Let's add in now our variation to this. So we're going to change this from a long spline to turbulence first. Okay, and then let's change this to about 10%. And maybe we can lower our scale size a little bit and lower our strength again. Okay, so let's name this turbulent. And then we can add in on top of this we can add in a random on top of this and increase the strength a little bit. Going to give us our particles kind of breaking off of this main area. Okay, so what do we do about the end area? They're just going off forever here. So now that we kind of have the shape, we're going to do a quick question and answer. So, question, add a question, particle position, distance traveled is greater than 150. I want to add in a kill, and let's shrink it down and fire this up and off the scene. And this will be distance traveled. Activate this modifier. And I think it's going to be distance traveled is probably going to be about 350, but we can test this right now. And I don't need to see our flow fields. So that's getting going really, really quickly here. And that's because our along is set to 100. So let's do about 50. Okay, so I think we want to add one more handle. Since we lowered it, we want to add in another handle. Help our particles hit that bend in the R there. And let's see if they are getting killed at the end there. Let's add in the groups affected to a particle group 1, because we're going to be layering this up with a bunch, so we only want them to be killed when they reach 350 on this spline. And I think it's even less than that, isn't it? It's probably, well, is it 250? 200? To 225? And then let's add in a range of maybe 15. 35? And then we can look into doing some rotation now. So let's try maybe 15 on just this handle. That'll kind of kick them off in a direction. And then let's add in another 15. This one we want to slow it down, the bend. So let's try maybe 15. And let's increase our attraction a little bit. So basically the flow field along is just giving it a little bit of a push, so these don't have to be so dialed in. And when these get really strong, then there's like a sort of like an opposite and equal reaction coming out the other side, and can look kind of weird. Add some more. So this is the area. This is kind of our problem area at the moment. Maybe I can just help push it along here. A little bit more attraction. And then I need this to be, very attractive too, to pull them out right away. We could also look at changing our size of our follow spline, or along spline. And now it's just kind of push and pull with all these settings here. One thing that I don't think that we did was in our extended data tab, in our fluid data, we can, if we lower the viscosity down, then it's not going to be so, honey-like. And then we can add in some more vorticity, and maybe add in a little bit more surface tension. Starting to get clumped up. I guess one thing that we also could do is in our spline, go to our points, and we could just kind of help it by moving it over a little bit. See how that looks? Yeah, that's looking better. It's kind of flows up and onto itself. Okay, so that is our R. Let's save this. Now it kind of gets a little monotonous now when we have to copy this onto all the other letters here. So let's try to get this as good as we can here. So distance traveled, kill, line flow, all these are going to go into particle group 1. Let's just organize. Particle group 1 is going to be this emitter. Yeah, let's do here first, the R. And we can name this R. And this emitter. And then our spline flow. going to be our R. So now you just have to do some housekeeping here. And go through. Yeah. Okay, so this is our R. Now let's add this to a new layer. Add everything to this layer. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty, happy with this R here. So now let's go through and make our first E. So this is going to be E1, bottom to top. Going to be E1, middle. Be E1, bottom. Okay. So now let's copy and paste this 3 times. Open it up. And just going to remove the layers on all these. Okay, so now in particle group 2, our emitter should be in the correct groups, which they are. Okay, so we want the splines to be out of here, so we'll get rid of this R, and this R, and this R. Okay, and then we will copy, copy, copy. So now let's put these in their groups. Okay, so now let's layers, hide that for a second. So we want to name this E1 bottom. And then let's just make sure that this has the correct question in it. It does, and then that's going to get rid of this one, and this is linked to E1 bottom. Great. Okay. Now we'll do E1 middle. Okay. And then E1 bottom to top. Okay, so now let's add these all to a new layer. Okay, now if you remember, I'm still seeing this R here. Let's go back to the beginning. If you remember that our flow field needs to be moved. So let's turn this on. Move it over to our E. Okay. And our E1 middle. And then our E1 bottom to top. Okay, and then if you also recall that we need to change our line to spline. on all of our emitters. Okay. And we have to change our flow field along in all of these. And we have to make sure groups affected, bottom to top. Yep, that's correct group. So yeah, while we're here in the same, we can also change the object spline. We have 2 splines to add in. In the middle, we have our along, and we have our spline flow. Spline flow. Along. Okay. Should we just hit play and see what we get here? Okay, but our questions and actions, I mean, they are being killed eventually because they're not going off forever. So let's focus on, for now, our bottom to top. Now we're going to adjust this here for each one. So right now it's saying 235. Let's try 150. Maybe 140. 130. Yeah. Okay. And yeah, while we're here, just maybe a little too many handles. Don't need all those. Yeah, it is good that the is looking pretty good, I think. Maybe lower the attraction of this one here. And some rotation there. Okay. Great. Now let's turn this one off. Look at our middle. Now we're looking at the distance. Whoa, explosion. Okay. Distance traveled. Yeah, this is probably like maybe 50. Yeah, so we have a lot of handles here that we don't need, but let's keep the last one. Get rid of this one. One. And let's add in, yeah, I think that's probably good. Save. Okay, pause, let's go back, let's not make that mistake again. And turn this one on, distance traveled. And again, it's like around 50. And we just have a lot of handles that we don't need. So let's keep the last one and remove a few. These can go live a little longer. 5 maybe. Okay, great. Here we go. Now let's turn on our E. Yeah, flow field should everything be working here? Back. Okay, great. So one thing we want to adjust is the timing of this emitter. So we'll start emitting around frame 60. So that's going to be our E1 middle. Emission, emit on all frames. Okay, 45. Okay, great. So that's our first E. So let's put them all together and see. Let's put our R back on. You could name these while we're here. So we're not getting confused. Let's just turn everything back on. Just want to see how these two look together. So this is going to be our E1 bottom, E1 middle, and our R. All right, everything's on. Yep. Sure, everything's still looking good. I think what we'll do is we'll stagger so like right now we'll start emitting all the E's and then we'll, move it over. But just for the sake of getting this moving, we're just going to go for this method for now. And we can look at meshing these. So we can lock this down and drag in our R and drag in all of our E's. Save it. So we want the point radius to be about 1.5 and the minimum point radius to also be about 1.5. And that's important because when little particles start to fly off, it's not going to flicker. And then let's add in our filter. Add in a Gaussian as well. And lower this to about 50%. And there we go. We're starting to get there. And we're going to up the particle counts as we are about to do our final render here. But this is where we are. This is where we're at now. Okay, so let's turn off our and keep at it. So feel free to stop watching if you've had enough. But I have to continue this now. So our next one is going to be our second E. So we'll name this E2. Move our R to the top. R. E2 bottom. Middle. Now in our layers, we can turn off. But first we have to remove these from all the layers. And then we can turn everything off. E2, bottom, E2 middle, and then E2 bottom to top. Great. Turn on our splines again. Okay. So let's just focus on one of these at a time. So spline flow, groups affected, E2 bottom, that's right. So we just have to change the spline, E2 bottom, and then add this into here. And close that. Long. Okay. And the distance traveled. E2 middle. Okay, so let's adjust this one a little bit out. And we can maybe adjust our position of our E so it's not right in the middle of when it's on the way up. Yep, that starts going. Maybe a little less because I do want it to look like it's coming from it, but great. Now let's just add in some more rotation here on our E. Add it on both. And yeah, maybe even at the end too. All right. So here's our E2. Good to go. So let's make a new layer for all these. And these. Go our layer manager and rename these. Okay. Now we have our F, 2 more letters. So let's do our bottom to top and middle. Paste these. Remove them from their layers. Hide all the layers. Okay, so it's going to be F long, F short. Okay, and then we have to reassociate everything. Oops, affected F short, that's right, and then flow field along. Okay, and I think that we need to that F long, bottom to top, we need to increase by 165. And let's look at when these start coming out. So too soon, right now. So 85. And this top part is kind of doing that bounce again. So let's just add in another handle. Maybe this handle, we can change the along to maybe just 10. See if that pulls it in. Don't think I moved my flow fields over. That's going to be a problem. So yeah, this maybe should help it. So these are starting to pull in, these bottom handles are starting to pull in these particles. Go to our short. Lower our distance. And maybe it's towards as well. Make sure our turbulence is affecting the right ones here. Yeah, F short. Okay, so let's get all of our flow fields lined up and then we should be good. So F short. F long. Okay, let's turn everything back on. Oh, you know what? Let me add these to their own layers. Okay, and then let's turn everything back on at the beginning. And we should be set up now. Just arranging a little bit. Okay. So our E1, let's look at our, good. And our E1 middle, good. Just, I'm pretty sure this is, yeah. Okay. And then our E2 bottom. Move that over. E2 middle. I think I have to rename these too. And then F we already moved. Let's turn off, left on one of these E1s. I had to change this to E2. Okay, wow, I think we got it. So in our mesher, we have to just make sure that all of our, it's gonna mesh all of our emitters here. So I guess what we could do is just erase them all from here, lock it, go to search, emitter, drag them all in same time, unlock, should be good. Let's play it and see. It's gonna be definitely slow, but make sure that we're on the right track here. Okay, so I think we got there. We just have to increase our particle count. So I'm not sure exactly how many we're going to want here, but let's try maybe 5,000 on the R. And then the E1 bottom, I don't know, maybe that's kind of looking fine. So let's just do 2,000 maybe. And so 2,000 on the E2 bottom as well. And then our E1 middle, I think we probably also want around 2,000. E2 middle, about 2,000. And then our E1 bottom to top, I think maybe 5,000. E2 bottom to top, maybe 5,000. And then our F long, probably 5,000. And then our F2 short, or F short, 2,000. So now is when we can look at staggering the emissions and getting them to all, not come out at the same time here. Just see how this looks with the upped particle count. The R is really taking a long time. Everything else is completed, and I think I need the R to happen quicker here. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna call it quits here, and I'll just adjust my timing of my emitters, and set up a cache, render it out. Okay, so I cached this out. It didn't take too long. Now I'm going to bake this as Alembic. Okay, now we're copy this, go into a new scene and paste it. See how it looks. Should play pretty close to real time. And there we go. So if we want to look at some lighting on this, I think we're going to use Arnold. Let's switch to our first layout. And we need to, you don't have to do this in the newer versions of Arnold, but I don't think, but I'm going to be using a different, like an older version on other computers to render this. I'm going to throw that on there, Arnold tag, and then check opaque. And then let's make a quad light, like the top of this. And we'll make a couple materials. Shadow matte for the floor. And then in the shadow matte, we can turn on specular. Okay, let's copy our light. Having some issues before with my HDRIs. Let me check again. Let me save this. Alembic. Rotate this light around behind and rotate it over, move it over. Okay, and then let's put our material on. And we want this to be fully transmissive. And we want it to have some color. Depth, probably first pretty high number. So the edges kind of get it. Okay, and let's bring in a sky and just see if this crashes my computer again. I was running the beta, and I think the beta for OS Big Sur, and I think that's what was causing the issue, so I actually downgraded. Oh, okay, it seems to be better now. Sorry about that little lag. So I want something that's sandy and blue. So do one. And then let's not let this contribute to the transmission. Just the specular. All right, so I think I'm going to queue this up for a little render here. Okay, yeah, let's just throw a camera in. Pause our IPR for a sec. Just zero everything out. Just for the sake of render time, I'm gonna not use this floor. And then let's change in our material our index of refraction. Let's make it what water is, 1.33. That's about it. So let's render this. Save it again. Yeah, so I'm going to open this on a different computer and I'll render it and then I'll be back. So I cached and rendered this out, and I do want to make a couple small changes that I think are going to go a long way here. One is the splashing should be, I think, a little bit more the liquid. It's just too uniform here, so I'm going to add in a little bit more turbulence, change that up a little bit, and then we're going to look at having these grow in small, kind of slower and smaller, start from smaller particles and then get larger. So I already erased the cache here, and in my along, I'm going to go through and change everything to 35% strength and 10 cell size. And I'm going to, in the turbulence, I'm going to remove that random, and I'm going to add change the strength to 8% and the cell size to 3. And that's going to give us something more along the lines of this. We're still keeping our shape, but we're getting a lot more just kind of volatile splashes happening. Okay. The other thing is the scale. Let's lower the radius change. Something like this. And that's going to affect everything globally. And then I think the particle count was fine. So that was our R. So 35, 10, 8, 3. Okay, so let's just go back through and turn on everything. I think, let me just check in a previous scene here. Yeah, let's change this. Let's change our fluid effects to medium. Definitely going to slow us down a little bit, but we'll get just more accurate, especially since we lowered our along spline. It's going to deviate a little bit more off. So I don't actually mind that some are coming off. Okay, so let's say we're happy with our R. Turn everything off, and then look at our E. Let me just make sure that this part isn't too lumpy here. We get some separation. E middle, E1 middle. Just gonna adjust this handle distance a bit less, and maybe change the toward. I want to get less of the particles that are meant for the top to come in here, which we did break these up into groups, so I'm not actually 100% sure why this is happening. I think that the particles are just maybe interacting with them, and the fluid is making them get sucked up. But I'm not 100%. But this did tighten it up. We're getting our E structure back. Let's mesh that. Okay. I want to do that same thing to that middle handle, 13 and 15. 13 and 15. Okay, so then our second E should be fine. So let's solo our two Fs. Yeah, so that random flow field, it kind of is, at least the settings that I had were just way too uniform. It's pretty counterintuitive. I don't use that one too much, but got a little double chin going on. Okay, so this is what we want here. I'm going to recache this and then I will be back. Okay, so we're all cached out, and these are my render settings for Arnold. And now we're just going to kick this off. I'm going to render out a 4K version here. And this is just the main. I set up the camera to just be a wide. And then I'll do additional renders later on down the road where, we're just a lot closer, a lot tighter in. As these letters form, the liquid flies past and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm gonna render this out. All right, that'll do it. Hope you found something in there that was useful, hopefully. If you want to post some links in the comments of projects that you make with this technique, I'd love to see it. This was my first time actually using layers, so you probably don't have to turn off everything in there. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.